This video is brought to you by Sailrite. Visit Sailrite.com for all your project supplies, tools, and instructions. In this video tutorial, we'll show you all the steps required to make your own enclosure front curtain for your boat. A professional canvas shop may charge thousands for a full boat enclosure. Watch this video, buy your supplies from Sailrite, and do it yourself and save. We've already sewn the Bimini top and the side enclosure curtains. Video tutorials covering those projects can be found at Sailrite.com or our YouTube channel. Check them out. Let's get started and show you how to make the front enclosure curtain for our powerboat. We will be attaching our front curtain to the fabric Bimini top, so we need to mark the location where we want the zipper to start and stop. It is best to try to keep them about an inch or two away from solid surfaces like this stainless tubing. We are marking the hang-down tail of the Bimini with our soapstone pencil. Now that it's marked, we can remove the Bimini so the zipper can be attached to the hang-down tail. To determine the length of the finished zipper required, measure the distance from start to stop location. We will be using a YKK number 10 finished Vislon zipper from Sailrite. Separate the zipper and apply a 1/4 inch seam stick for canvas to the flange of the zipper with a starter post or pin. Using this seam stick or double-sided tape helps aid in keeping the zipper in place while we sew it. Because the finished zipper is too long, we will need to create a zipper stop. To do this, we will cut some Sunbrella acrylic 1-inch binding to size and then apply a seam stick to it. So we can baste it in place after the zipper is basted in place to the top. Angela will baste the zipper so it's right up against the seamed edge of the pocket on the Bimini. However, this makes the zipping a little more difficult, so we recommend it be basted about a 1/2 inch away from the seamed edge all along the length of the tail. Because our zipper is too long, we will cut off the excess at the stop location that was marked on our Bimini earlier. Be sure this is not the end with the starter pin, but with the factory installed stop. Now, the 1-inch binding will be secured with basting tape to make a new stop since the factory stop was cut off. Find the opposite half of the zipper and cut off the end matching the exact amount cut off the one installed to the top. Doing this now will ensure that the zipper that will be attached to the curtain in the future is the exact same length. And now this zipper basted to the Bimini top's tail can be sewn down. Do some reversing at the beginning and end of the zipper to lock the stitches in place. We are using the Sailrite UltraFeed LS1 sewing machine. The UltraFeed sewing machines are great for enclosure and canvas projects like this. They are priced right and still have the power and performance that is often required for jobs of this magnitude. Get yours today at Sailrite. The zipper is now installed to the top. We will be using a 3/8 and 1/4 inch width seam stick for canvas from Sailrite. The 3/8 will be used for seams, hems, facing, and also zipper stops and more, while the 1/4 inch width is perfect for zippers because it is not too wide and will stay far enough away from the zipper's teeth not to cause future issues. Okay, after all that's said, we are applying the 3/8 inch seam stick to the opposite side of the zipper here. Why? Because this will be used to hold our pattern material in place and will be removed after we're done patterning. The basting tape has been applied to the zipper's flange so it's facing away from the Bimini, facing up. So the pattern material in the future step will have to be adjusted along this edge from inside of the boat while standing under the Bimini top. If you want to adjust the pattern material from outside the Bimini, then apply the basting tape to the zipper's flange so it faces down towards the Bimini top. We could apply the pattern material to the zipper's flange after the Bimini top is erected, but it is easier to apply it now while it's still laying flat on the tabletop. If the basting or seam stick is facing the table instead of facing up, as shown here, then we would fold the material back about 12 inches so we have extra pattern material going past the attachment point. This extra amount will make adjustment easier when actually fitting the pattern to the boat. In no way will this be perfect. Applying the pattern material like this now on the table is a shortcut, and we expect that some adjustment will be required when the top is actually in place. Let's go back to the way Angela was basting it to the top with the basting tape up. Since we have pre-basted the pattern material to the zipper will need to be removed from the top to make installation of the top easy. Do this carefully to avoid removing the basted zipper from the pattern material. It's now time to reinstall the Bimini top to the boat and start patterning for the front curtain. That's coming up next. We are back on the boat and the Bimini has been installed back on the frame. The pattern will need to be fitted to our front windshield, so we will need to apply seam stick for canvas to the edge of the frame. However, if applied directly to the metal or fiberglass, it will prove to be difficult to remove when we are done patterning. So we will use 3M filament strapping tape as a base first, then apply the seam stick over that. You can see snap studs are already installed on this windshield, so we will position that tape just outside those snaps. So this will be where we want the edge of our front curtain to fall. Now Angela sticks the seam stick for canvas over the strapping tape. At the walk-through windshield center door, she will slit the tape so the door can be opened, if required, without interfering with the tape. The zippers that were attached to the side curtains need to have the seam stick for canvas applied to the zipper's flange. Be sure to apply it to the side facing out. This is the 3/8 inch wide seam stick. Now we can take the pattern material that has the zipper stuck on it and zip it in place along the front of the Bimini. If you have not chosen to apply the pattern material yet, that's okay. Now is the time to apply it to that zipper with the seam stick / basting tape. Here you can see the pattern material is basted to the back side of the zipper, requiring us to make adjustments to the pattern material from inside the boat or under the Bimini. However, for videoing purposes, we wanted to show making adjustments from outside, so we will eventually reverse this so the pattern material is stuck to the front side of the zipper. We didn't show changing it up, but here you can see we've done it. Now it's best to get a second helper and have them help pattern. Angela notices that the pattern material needs adjustment along the top zipper. The windshield makes reaching over rather difficult, so she opens the door to gain better access. What's so great about using the seam stick for patterning? Well, you can make adjustments easily by pulling off the pattern material and rebasting it until you're happy with its appearance. Now Angela and Trent will pull the transfer paper from the seam stick, revealing the glue, and start basting the lower edge of the pattern material to the windshield. They will baste and make adjustments until the pattern material lays as nice and as even as possible. Take note that the bottom edge takes a rather aggressive turn, and you can see the pattern material bunch up directly under where it's being basted. This is normal, and in some situations you may want to cut slits up from the bottom edge of the pattern material, relieving those hard spots, but do not cut past the edge that is being basted down. Angela is making adjustments to the top edge, so she sent Trent inside under the Bimini so he can push against the back side of the zipper so Angela has a hard surface to rebaste it to after her adjustments are made. Notice Trent is trying to follow her hand as she rebastes the pattern material, giving her a solid surface to push against. Looking good. On both port and starboard sides, she will baste the pattern material to the side zippers.
Okay, Trent, remember, don't push too hard. Trent, push.
We are happy with the way the pattern looks. It's now time to start marking the material with a Sharpie marker. Angela marks where the outside edge of the zipper flange falls, and then where the opposite side curtain edge falls. Then she traces around the pattern material, indicating where the canvas edge will fall. For reference sake, she marks where the snaps are located, but we will not install the snaps on our finished curtain using those marks on the pattern. Along the top, she marks where the zipper's flange edge falls. Before moving on, don't forget to mark the start and stop position for each zipper. When the door is reached, mark its location. This is where we will be installing a zipper to the curtain for access through the door. You can also mark the zipper's flange edge from inside the boat, depending on how the pattern material was basted, making it easier to follow the edge since the marker is up against the zipper's flange edge. Using a yardstick, we will try to determine the best vertical angle for the curtain's door opening, where a zipper will be installed. No need to mark a line, simply place a mark at the top, and we will join the line from bottom to top while at the loft table later. Always label the pattern. This is the starboard side inside, so it will be marked SIN for starboard inside. The port side, PIN. Now the pattern may be removed. In an effort to ensure that everything is marked correctly, We like to try to keep the zippers basted to the pattern, so if possible, try to remove the pattern by unzipping the zipper carefully and leaving it basted to the pattern material. We can easily remove the basting tape that was applied to the strapping tape. Coming up next, we'll prep the pattern material for cutting of the clear vinyl. We mark the pattern material well, so Angela will remove the zippers on the side of the pattern material. However, if you're less confident about where you mark the zippers, you can check and remark if needed prior to removing them. Also remove the basting tape that was used for patterning from each zipper. Here you can see we're striking a line where we want the zipper installed for the access to the door, from mark to mark. We are going to use this cut-off wood yardstick as a jig for marking our pattern material. The ruler has notches that were cut with a Dremel tool, so a pencil or marker could fit next to the notch and allow us to mark certain distances away from edges. Here along the top edge we are marking a 1/2 inch away. Why? Because our pattern was marked where the zipper's flange edge fell. Half of a number 10 YKK zipper when measured equals about 3/4 of an inch from flange edge to the center of the zipper's teeth. So by adding a 1/2 inch when the zipper is finally attached, later on, its teeth will be just hanging off the edge, as shown here. Here's a look back at patterning. You can see we are marking a line up against the canvas here. We will use that line that we struck right up against the canvas edge when patterning and cut directly over it. You may see multiple lines here, but trust me, it is the line that was up against the canvas edge that we are using. Be sure all zipper marks and any other important marks are transferred, if they were cut off, to the good pattern. Along the bottom edge, simply cut directly over that line. Here you can see we're cutting that top edge. Next up, we'll be patterning the clear vinyl window material. Since the vinyl has not been unrolled and sat flat for an hour or so in a warm room or in direct sunlight, it has a memory and wants to curl back up, so Angela has staked each corner with an awl to keep it flat. The pattern material has been laid on top of the clear vinyl, and now she will mark around the edges with a Sharpie marker. A yellow grease pencil can also be used for this task. Taping the pattern material to the vinyl is recommended, or laying the pattern material under the clear vinyl will usually keep it from moving around as you pattern. We are using a 30 gauge vinyl material called OC. Other brands are also available at Sailrite. Be sure to mark the location of the zippers that are used for the windshield door access. Along the bottom edge, label the clear vinyl with pin, sin, or if upside down, pout, sout, to indicate which side it is and whether it is the inside or outside surface. If you don't remember, we call pin port side inside or pout port side outside surface. A line needs to be struck down indicating where the zippers for the door are located. This line is the center location for a zipper. Along each side of the line we will strike a line that is a 1/4 inch away from the center line on both sides. So we will be removing a 1/2 inch of clear vinyl at this location to accommodate for the zipper's teeth that will stick out about a 1/4 inch from each side of the curtain's panel. This curtain track is a 1/2 inch wide, so we just centered it and struck lines on both sides. It's now time to cut the clear vinyl window material with scissors. We will cut it into 3 separate panels. Let's discuss the differences in our clear vinyl window material. You have some choices on what brand and quality of clear vinyl you can use. We will start with the best brands, Strata Glass and OC. These are very UV and scratch resistant vinyls. They are also very clear, like looking out a glass window. Strataglass is a little stiffer, while OC is softer. OC is chemical resistant, while Strataglass is not. We are using OC 30 gauge for our enclosure curtains. The second best is Crystal Clear and Regalite. Both are UV resistant and very clear. Crystal Clear is more firm, while Regalite is softer. For those trying to save money, Plastipane 30 gauge is an option, but not recommended since it's not UV resistant and not as clear. Remember, the cost of clear vinyl is nothing compared to the labor involved. All the clear vinyl for our front curtains are now cut to size and labeled well. Next up, we will create our facings. The border of fabric around the perimeter of the enclosure curtain is typically called facings. These facing strips will give the window a nice looking border and also provide for zippers or fasteners to be installed along the edge. The size or width of the facing strip is up to the end user, but typically where a zipper is placed they are usually a finished width of 1 inch to 1.5 inch. Where snaps or other fasteners are installed they are 2 to 3 inches or more depending on what size of border versus clear vinyl window is desired. It's now time to make the facing for the curtain. For the underside facing we will use a vinyl fabric called Sharpie. You could just use a sunbrella or whatever fabric you've used for the outside surface as a facing for the underside as well. To install the facings to the edge, we could just make it for the outside surface only, but that would make the inside look kind of ugly, as you would see hems and double-sided tape through the clear vinyl. To cut the inside/wrong side facing strip, lay the clear vinyl window material over a section of the fabric selection you will be using. As mentioned earlier, we are using Sailrite, but you could use the same fabric that will be used on the outside/right side of the curtain. We are using a grease pencil yellow to trace around the edge of the clear vinyl onto our inside facing strip fabric. By tracing the clear vinyl like this, our facing strips will always match the edge, even if it's rather curvy. Using our jig we made with notches for our pencil, we will now strike a line that is perpendicular to the line we just struck down. Since we are using a vinyl fabric for the inside facing, we do not have to worry about our edges unraveling, so we are not accommodating for an inside hem, the addition of a 1/2 inch to the width for a hem. If you are using sunbrella marine grade fabric for the inside facing, we recommend making the inside strip a 1/2 inch wider than the desired finish size so a single hem can be created along the inside edge. Or instead use a hot knife and cut the sunbrella fabric to size, which will help prevent the unraveling of the fabric edge. Notice that the vinyl we are using has a shiny side and a dull side. We prefer to use the dull side as our outside surface, so we placed our seam stick for canvas, part number 129, to that side and will now baste the inside facing strip to the clear vinyl. This is a 2 inch wide strip, and as you can see on this edge, snaps will be installed later on. For the remaining edges of our curtain, zippers will be used, so we will cut a 1 inch wide inside facing strip for all those sides following the same principle we just covered. Our front curtain has 3 separate panels. We will not show this process for the remaining panels. A word of caution. Be sure to install the inside facings to the correct side of the curtain panel. Here's a look ahead and you can see our panel labeled pin for port side inside, and notice all the inside facings are facing that direction. Once the inside facing strips are finished and basted in place, it's time to work on the outside facing strips. Here we are using a sunbrella marine grade fabric. The process is the same except that we want to add at least a 1/2 inch but not more than 1 inch to the desired finished width to accommodate for a single hem along the inside edge. The outside edge will have a 1 inch binding installed to it once everything is in place. We'll do that a little bit later on in this video. Here you can see Angela is making an outside facing strip that is 1.5 inches wide, which will result in a 1 inch facing strip after the hem is created. We are using scissors to cut this umbrella because all sides will either be hemmed or a binding will cover them. However, to prevent unraveling while working on the curtains, a hot knife may be used instead. Notice that throughout this video, Angela is trying to keep the clear vinyl on the paper it was shipped in from Sailrite. This will help prevent dragging the vinyl across the table, which may cause small scratches. A soft fabric could also be used for even better results as a protective barrier. As strips are cut to size, try to keep them on and orientated on the correct edge of the curtain. This will help cut down on confusion when basting is required. Once all outside strips are cut to size, it's time to baste them to the outside surface of the clear vinyl window. To do this, our panel needs to be flipped. To baste these strips, 2 runs of the seam stick for canvas, part number 129, will be placed on the clear vinyl window material. 1 on the outside edge and 1 on the inside edge. The transfer tape should be removed on the seam stick on the outside edge only, revealing the glue. Then the correct facing strip should be basted down along that edge. Sew this outside edge down with a straight stitch about 6 millimeters in length. Keep the stitch very close to the raw edge. This stitch is a holding stitch and will be covered with the 1-inch binding that will be installed later on. So it's important that this stitch be no further than 3/8 inch away from the raw edge, so it will be completely covered by the future binding. Before moving on to the next facing strip, we will create our hem along this edge. It is rather simple to do. Just remove the transfer paper from the basting tape and fold the edge to match the inside facing strip on the bottom side of the clear window material. If you've used Stamoid or Weblon or other vinyl fabric brands for the facing strips, the process is the same. However, I have seen outside facing vinyl strips just left raw, like we did for the inside facing. But I don't like the way they look. They don't look as professional as a strip with a hem like this. Next, take it to the sewing machine and sew this inside edge with hem down with a straight stitch about 6 millimeters in length. Usually we reverse at the beginning and the end of a stitch to lock the stitch in place, but since each edge will be covered by other facings and eventually binding, we have no reason to do this. Follow this same procedure with the opposite edge. The last 2 strips will cover the ends of the first 2 strips. A full enclosure system like this needs a heavy-duty sewing machine. Sewing through clear vinyl material and multiple layers of fabric like this takes a good sewing machine, and one with a walking foot is very helpful, if not required. We are using the Sailrite UltraFeed sewing machine for this job. The UltraFeeds are heavy-duty portable walking foot sewing machines that are excellent for jobs like this and don't cost much. In fact, making a full boat enclosure yourself like this will easily pay for the machine and still save you lots of money compared to going to a professional canvas shop to have the job done. We have skipped ahead here, but wanted to show a portion of sewing down the last facing strip on this panel. Coming up next, we'll sew the binding around the edges. Another must-have is the 1-inch swing-away straight-angle binder from Sailrite. This type of project requires a binder attachment to be used. It mounts to the base of our UltraFeed and other sewing machines. Your job? Keep the fabric edge inside the opening of the binder. The binder will fold the binding and keep the stitch as straight as possible. Since the assembly is rather thick, you need to keep it pushed up inside the edge of the binder and may have to help feed it slightly. So don't worry about anything but those two things, and the binding should be installed well. No need to reverse for these two runs. However, for the binding that covers the first at the corner, there some reversing should be done. This corner is 11 layers of fabric, very thick, and a large bump. You will have to push this corner to get it to feed, and some reversing should be done to lock the stitch at this corner. Before moving on, let's use the Sailrite edge hot knife and seal the ends of the binding. At one point when Angela was sewing the binding on the edge, she did not push the assembly well into the binder opening, so you can see a bulging of the binding. No need to rip up the whole edge and start again. Just remove the stitches holding the binding in place at that location and we'll restitch it down. Start about an inch over the previous stitches. Do some reversing, then stitch down the length of the binding, keeping it pushed up against the edge of the assembly. Then sew over the last inch of stitches at the end and do some reversing there. We skipped ahead and are now showing all the panels completed. Next, we will concentrate on making Velcro closures for our zippers. It's a good idea to check now against the pattern material to be sure the panels are the correct size and made properly. The first step in making our Velcro closure flap, which will cover the zipper openings, is to baste in place a 1-inch wide loop Velcro along one side of the futured zippered edge. We are using the seam stick for canvas yet again to hold the Velcro in place to make it easier to sew it without it moving on us. Velcro will go along the edge and extend all the way to the top and bottom edges. A few measurements will need to be taken to make our Velcro zipper flaps the correct size. We need a length measurement and a width measurement. The width measurement should be done with the two panels spaced no more than a ½ inch apart from each other. The zipper's teeth will take up that space. Then take a measurement from outside facing edge to outside facing edge on the other panel. Don't go all the way to the edge, but slightly inside it by about an 1/8 inch or so. Using the same fabric that the outside facing strips are made from, ours is Umbrella marine grade fabric, measure and cut a strip using those measurements you just took. Since our second door zipper is the same size, we can cut 2 for both sides of the door. Check to be sure they fit over the facing strips and cut away the ends to match curtains that may have a slightly slanted edge. The making of our side curtains were shown in a previous video. Those side curtains had Velcro already sewn in place for this Velcro zipper flap that will be sewn to the front curtain. A length measurement will be taken for this. The width measurement we just used for the door panels will be used here also. Trim the ends to match the curtain below as shown in the video. Do the same for the other end. Since each Velcro zipper flap is a different size, basically the ends, label each with a soapstone pencil for easy identification. Then label the side it will be sewn on with the corresponding number. Now the flaps can be taken to the sewing machine and a 1-inch binding can be sewn all around the sides of the flaps. For this boat we made a Bimini and now a full enclosure, so we will likely use a whole roll of 1-inch binding, usually about 300 feet. We have it all pushed into the sewing machine table and have placed the roll on this to help feed the binding off the roll. This is by far the easiest way to sew binding on without having to worry about kinking and rolling binding as it's being fed through the binder. Notice that the binding that covers the corner, some reversing is done to lock the stitch in place. The ends are touched with the Sailrite Edge hot knife. Angela orientates each so the hook Velcro can be sewn onto the correct side and edge. Then she bastes the Velcro to the flap. To sew the Velcro in place, flip the flap so the Velcro is down and sew right over the stitch that holds the 1-inch binding to the edge. Notice that we have a magnetic guide attached to the base of the sewing machine as a guide, kind of like a fence on a table saw. This magnetic guide is nice, but I prefer the deluxe 5.5-inch magnetic sewing guide over this one. You can check that out on our website. It is not uncommon for the stitch on the hook Velcro to not be flat and straight because the hooks don't allow it to be pulled down flat against it. This is normal and should not be a concern. Do this same procedure for all the flaps. Set the Velcro zipper flaps aside, and now we will concentrate on the zippers. Lay the panels back over the pattern material so the start and stop locations for the zippers can be transferred from the pattern to the enclosure curtains. We are using the soapstone pencil for this task and are marking both sides of the panel. We will start with the zippers that are vertical and leave the horizontal zipper along the top for last. To install these, we need to flip each panel so the inside surface is facing up. Here, a seam stick for canvas 1/4 inch wide will be used. This is a perfect size for the zipper's flange, as it does not come too close to the teeth, but yet has good holding power. Apply it on both edges of the zipper. We're using a number 10 YKK finished Vislon zipper from Sailrite. The slider is a double pull, meaning it has a tab on both sides so the curtain can be zipped or unzipped from inside or outside the enclosure. We have separated the halves of the zipper and will now baste it in place along the door's sides. Angela is facing the bottom edge, so the stop will be positioned here. We like to keep the zipper stop about 2 inches away from the bottom edge of the curtain. The zipper will allow the opening of the middle panel for access to the windshield door. So the top of this zipper will be sewn shut. It will not separate. Okay, I bet some of you are asking, why are we using a finished zipper instead of a continuous zipper? A finished zipper will separate, while a continuous zipper does not. Well, we could have used a continuous zipper here, but we already had the finished zipper on hand, so we decided to use it instead. The starter box and starter pin or post will be cut off later on. Notice that Angela has installed the zipper so the teeth are slightly extending past the edge of the binding. Since a Velcro zipper flap will be covering the zipper, we do not have to worry much about hiding them under the binding edge as much. This is the top edge of the curtain. Here you can see the starter pin, and on the opposite side, the slider with the starter box. Here at the door, those will be cut off in a future step. Next, we will install the finished zippers to the sides of the front curtain. These must be finished zippers because they will separate the front curtain from the side curtains. Remember, the side curtains were shown in a separate video. If a finished zipper is too long, as is often the case, the end with the factory stop should be the end that is cut off. To make a new stop, here we are using a small length of 1-inch umbrella binding and have installed the seam stick to it. We will fold and baste it over the cutoff section of the zipper, creating a new stop. We did not show it, but this zipper was cut off earlier when we made the adjacent side curtains in the previous video. Notice that it is the perfect length as it matches up with our marks on the curtain. We will apply seam stick 1/4 inch width to the zipper's flange, being sure it is placed on the correct side of the zipper, and then baste it in place as done previously with the other zipper we showed. There you go. A little bit more. Do the same with the opposite side. This side still has the factory stop in place, as you can see. Now we can take these panels to the sewing machine and sew the zipper in place. Let's start with the zipper at the center windshield door. For this zipper, we are starting at the zipper stop position at the bottom side of the curtain, where snaps will be used to snap it to the windshield. We do some reversing to lock the stitch in place and then sew to the top of the curtain. However, we want to stop sewing about 2 inches from the top edge and do some reversing there. Why do we stop at that location? Because in the future step we will be sewing a stop across the zipper when it's joined together with the opposite half. As you can see in this look ahead video, this 2 inches of unstitched zipper will allow us to put a heavy-duty stop in place. This step will be repeated for both zippers at the door position. We will skip ahead to the zippers on the side now. The panel has been turned so we can now sew this side zipper in place. Simply sew this zipper down, reversing the sewing machine at the beginning and the end to lock the stitch in place. You can move the slider back as you sew to avoid the sewing machine presser foot until it reaches the end. Then you have to contend with it. Or stop sewing, bury your needle in the fabric, lift the presser foot, and move it past the foot. Then lower your foot and continue to sew. Here, at the end, Angela is going to try to sew past the zipper slider, but notice she does it slowly and by pushing the slider to the right with her other hand. Flip the panel over and it's now time to secure the other side of the Velcro. The outside edge was secured with the zipper when it was sewn down. Next, find the appropriate numbered Velcro zipper flap and place seam stick for canvas 3/8 inch along the edge opposite the Velcro. Baste the flap to the curtain as shown in the video. Then sew it to the curtain. We like to keep this stitch right on top of the stitch that secured the binding in place. Now repeat these steps for all the panels. Here we are starting at the top, keeping the stitch about 2 inches away from the edge, as done previously. One slight change is required when it comes time to sew the Velcro zipper flap to the door section. When sewing the flap on for the door or zippers, start or stop sewing at the top of the curtain about 2 inches down from the top edge of the curtain panel. Why? Because we will have to fold the flap back to sew the panels together in the next step. If it were sewn all the way to the top edge, it would make that future folding back very difficult. Let's move on. Coming up next, we'll attach all the panels together, making one attached front curtain panel. Lay all the panels over the pattern. Notice the label pin is facing down and the panel's outside surfaces are facing up. Then zip them all together and check for accuracy to the pattern. To make a stop for the top edge zipper, we will cut some of the Sharpie vinyl fabric to size, about 2 inches by 1.5 inch. The zipper should be cut to fit the curtain. Here we are cutting it about a 1/2 inch away from the edge. Seam stick is applied to the vinyl fabric stops, and it's folded over the teeth at the end that was just cut off. To secure the stop and connect the 3 panels permanently together, we will sew through the stop carefully. The flap that was sewn on needs to be folded back, so we will not sew through it. This assembly is very thick, and we will be sewing through a zipper, so do this carefully and slowly. You may want to walk the sewing machine over the zipper section by hand by rotating the balance wheel on the machine yourself. Do this with the second zipper also. Moving on, let's show installing the zipper along the top edge next. The curtain has been laid over the pattern yet again, so we can position the zipper at the correct location along the top edge. The seam stick for canvas 1/4 inch width will be applied to the flange of the zipper as done previously with all our other zippers. At the end of the zipper, the factory stop was cut off when the zipper was installed to the Bimini at the beginning of this video. There we will place a cut section of 1 inch binding to make a stop. Now simply baste the zipper, being sure it starts and stops at the correct location following the pattern under it. The zipper's teeth should be exposed over the edge as shown in the video. No reason to bury them under the binding since this edge will be protected from exposure to the elements by the Bimini. When we reach the section that has the zipper for the door, we will continue basting the zipper right past that point. When it is basted in place, sew it down, following the stitch that was placed on the binding, sewing right over it. Upon reaching a Velcro zipper flap, fold it back so it will not be sewn down. Here the assembly is very thick. It may be prudent to walk the machine by hand over this section. We did not show it, but come back to the Velcro zipper flaps, and now they can be sewn down completely to the top edge. On this boat, 2 of our snap studs are missing. The hole drilled in the aluminum has its threads stripped out, so we cannot use a snap stud with a self-tap screw. Instead, we will use the Sailrite surface mount stud die to install a new snap stud. The Sailrite surface mount stud die screws into any standard rivet tool. Then it uses a standard snap stud and a blind rivet, both available from Sailrite, to install the stud. The die will hold the stud and blind rivet in place so it can be positioned through the hole without falling out. Depress the lever of the rivet tool while holding the die firmly up against the surface of the application. It works just like any rivet would work. Keep pressing and releasing the lever of the tool until the mandrel of the rivet breaks. The Sailrite surface mount stud die is great for missing studs that may no longer have threads in the hole that they were installed in. Order yours today from Sailrite. Another handy item we will be using is the quick fit pin socket. These will be used to help us position our snaps on the curtain. They simply snap to the studs on the boat. Then the curtain's bottom edge can be pushed through the quick fit pin socket's pin, assuring us that the snap will be installed in just the right spot. We like to push about 4 or 5 of the quick fit pins through the curtain, then install the snaps and use them again on the next set of snaps. There are many tools that are available from Sailrite to install snaps. For this application, we will use the Sailrite system. Here we have pushed a mandrel through the Sailrite socket die. Then a snap socket is inserted onto the die. On a standard rivet tool, we have screwed the Sailrite button die, and into it we insert a snap button. We have removed the quick fit pin socket, which has left a hole in our canvas. Now we can snap the Sailrite socket die onto a snap stud already installed in the boat. We will push the mandrel through the hole left by the quick fit pin socket. Then push the button's barrel over the mandrel and depress the lever of the rivet tool several times up and down until the snap is securely installed, usually a very firm feel of the tool. The mandrel does not necessarily need to break and might be able to be used 2 or 3 times before having to be discarded. Installing webbing straps with snaps is a good idea when it comes time to roll up the front enclosure panel over the door to keep it up. Brian is measuring the circumference of the roll from where a snap will be installed on the outside and inside of the curtain's top edge. Ours is 14 inches. Yours will be different. To that measurement, add 3 inches for a 1-inch single hem and a 2-inch single hem. Then use a hot knife to cut the webbing to keep it from unraveling. Here we're using the Sailrite Edge Hot Knife. For this snap application, we'll be demonstrating the popular press and snap installation tool. A button and socket snap have been inserted into the dies of the tool. Fold the webbing back to 1 inch on one side and install the snap in the center of that hem. The socket is secured to the hemmed underside as shown in the video. The press and snap installation tool cuts the hole and inserts the snap with a single press of the lever. To install a stud and eyelet snap, the dies can be removed and replaced with the included stud and eyelet dies for the press and snap tool. Fold the other end so it creates a 2-inch hem, folded on the same side as the 1-inch on the other side. Then install the stud so it's on the unhemmed side of the webbing, leaving about 1 inch of webbing for a snap installation above it. We will be using 2 straps for our front curtain's door, so we will repeat the process again for our second strap. We have unzipped the curtain along the top edge so the tool can be used along the edge of the curtain and will install a snap stud and eyelet in the top of the curtain, securing the webbing strap in place. This strap will be installed in the 2-inch hem of the strap above the snap we just installed. The stud should be installed to the outside surface of the curtain's top edge, not too close to the zipper. We have installed both and will now demonstrate rolling and snapping the curtain up. Our front enclosure curtain is now complete. Coming up next is the materials list and the tools we used. To build this front curtain, we used a little under $300 worth of materials from Sailrite. That does not include the tools that we used, but those are always reusable for future projects. If you have any questions regarding what type of clear vinyl window material or about any other products we carry, give us a call at Sailrite. We're glad to help. Some powerboat enclosures use a vinyl fabric for the facings instead of sunbrella. Brands like Stamoid or Weblon Regatta are very popular. If using those vinyl type fabrics, the construction process is still the same as outlined in this video. Videos covering how to make the Bimini and the side curtains are already posted. Check them out. Be sure to be watching for one more enclosure video that is coming soon. How to make an enclosure aft curtain. If your boat uses awning track and rope, the aft curtain video will be demonstrating how that is used. Watch for it at www.sailrite.com or the Sailrite YouTube channel. For more free videos like this, be sure to check out the Sailrite website or subscribe to the Sailrite YouTube channel. It's your loyal patronage to Sailrite that makes these free videos available. Thanks for your loyal support. I'm Eric Grant, and from all of us here at Sailrite, thanks for watching.